Join us for a review of the VW Passat GTE. Let's go! Here the Passat GTE in the front. Since the facelift, there's a more horizontal stress that leads over directly to the new headlamps, LED standard, optional the matrix LED, and the GTE, of course special, has this C-SPAN daytime running light here in the lower part. That's really impressive, and the charging port is right here at the front. The length is at 4.77 meters, 15'6" or 188 inches. Wheels are available from 17 to 19 inch. These here are the 18-inch wheels, so somewhat a nice compromise. And the normal suspension would start just at that, even for the GTE. An option, you can get the DCC, dynamic chassis control, that's the adaptive suspension where you have more variety between stiffness, a little bit stiffer or softer. You can pick it yourself in the driving modes. And in the rear, since the facelift, you have a new tail lamp design which looks more modern, also when you use the braking light, for example. And if you have the matrix LED option, you also get cascading turning indicators, both in the front and in the rear. And in the lower part, clear case for the Autogefuel fake exhaust police. So the Passat GTE features a 1.4 TSI turbo engine, 218 horsepower system output, maximum only electric drive, up to 140 kilometers an hour or 90 miles an hour. And now with a 13 kilowatt hour battery for more electric range, so about 50 kilometers or 30 miles pure electric range. And you can use that already very well. 7.6 seconds is the acceleration figure when you combine both powertrains for the maximum output. Then, since the facelift, you have a new steering wheel with a new, more modern design. Left side cruise control commands, right side for the virtual instruments. GTE steering badge right there. This is also, you can really feel that. Flat bottom of that. Here are the optional digital instruments. Zoom more about the screens. And the seats for the GTE. In general, for the Passat, you can get nice fabric seats, and here with the GTE they have a blue scheme in the inside fabric, and also here with some contrast stitching in blue. I would definitely stick with these. These are also the Ergo Comfort seats, so they're really good. Option, you can also get Alcantara on the inside with the design package, but then also the outside parts here would do with animal skin, so rather stick with these and save the money and also have the best climate comfort. Getting inside is fairly easy, and the cool thing about the Passat is always it is very suitable for tall adults, so the seats here really welcome also tall legs and long legs and so on. So the Passat would normally start with analog instruments still. Optional 11.7 digital instruments here, updated since the facelift. On the right side, a normal Passat would start 6.5 inch, but that's already not standard for the Passat GTE. The Passat GTE already started with an 8-inch screen, and then optional this one here, 9.2 inch, the biggest one available, then with no knobs anymore. The 8-inch one, I would rather recommend that one, the standard one, because it still has a manual volume knob and also this zoom in and out knob for the GPS map, so needed to the screens. Since the facelift, the analog clock is also gone, then here replaced with this Passat badge. It doesn't look bad at all. The integration here with the horizontal variants is also actually quite nice. Yeah, but the clock also had something, definitely. The digital instruments here, you can switch the view, how you want to have it, classic style or just the middle part, whatever you want to have displayed here. They're a little bit brighter than it appears on camera. I just need to find, shutter speed the right one, and so on, that it doesn't flicker. It does not or never flicker on human eye, but sometimes it does on the camera. So you're really flexible with adjusting these digital instruments. That's the cool thing. Head-up display is somewhat nice to have, but you see it's not directly projected into the windscreen, but rather on this separate small plexiglass layer. Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing, but a Passat should have a real one, I think. And here the infotainment system up close. You can see here when you mix it with the fuel and the electric, for example here 12 kilowatt hours more kilometers electric consumption and 2.5 liters or more kilometers. So that's a mix, but it really always depends on how you use that recharging. There are special e-displays that also shows you which range is left. Again, 40 to 50 kilometers would be a realistic range in not winter times. You can let the energy flow being shown to you here where the battery is placed. Also here then front wheel drive only, just to remember. There is a main menu like this, and it's actually quite clear and easy to read, but you can also individualize yourself a home menu like this. And in the rear, this is clearly a family vehicle. You have enough space also here with a manual shade then for the sun. Also soft touch materials at the inside, very good build quality, and you have a lot of legroom here left, no problem at all. Also the nice blue cont stitching here at the back part, and everything is softened up. Also the same scheme here in the rear for the rear compartment. Headroom also, no problem, especially with the Estate. There's a lot of headroom and so comfortable, these rear seats. Really feeling at home here. Well, you do buy a Passat for this to load things in and out very easily. Really cool with this Estate. This one actually goes forward when you open the trunk, but you have to put it back manual then later on, and here in 2 steps, but it has nice rails at the side. The width here is about 1 meter, and the normal length is already 1.15 meters, and you can also fold the seats from here, and you see they fold very, very well, and then you have a maximum length of almost 2 meters right here, so that's very, very well usable. So cool, and also easy to put like mountain bikes in there when you demount the front tire and so on. And here below that you can put it like this, and then have, for example, like a storage for your charging cables. Hey, what's up? Great you're here on our driving part. Thomas's driving lounge with the Passat GTE, and of course the most recent facelift iteration of the Passat right here. And indeed this has some effects on the vehicle, definitely. The new steering wheel, told you earlier, is really cool as for the new form and for the modern design. This also brings more premium touch to the vehicle, so really like that. And starting here in the city, all electric of course, is when the battery is charged somewhat, then you always start in the E mode, and it's just so relaxing to start all silent. The good noise insulation plays along with that. In the D mode, when you lift the throttle, the car is rather rolling. Usually you might also want to go to the B mode, so that comes closer than to electric vehicle driving, because then there's more recuperation. So when you go off the throttle, then there's immediate recuperation, and quite substantial. So we have some plug-in hybrids, even some EVs, which are not that strong. Others, especially Teslas for example, have very, very strong recuperation. It's always a matter of philosophy if you rather go for like this one pedal driving feeling or more normal combustion engine car like. And here when you are in the B mode, there's indeed substantial recuperation, and I like that. I think it's always a safety thing in the moment when you lift the throttle, you're already decelerating before you go to the brakes, and sometimes you can even leave it then with the recuperation, just with lifting the throttle, and that's fine then. Of course, the car does also do the regenerative braking when you hit the normal brakes, and then when even more braking power is needed, the normal brakes are being applied. But here in the B mode, I think it's when you're getting used to it, maybe even more comfortable and suitable for that kind of vehicle here. And if that here would be all electric, I wouldn't mind either. But of course, it can be a good combination when you, for example, commute to work, all electric short ways during the week, and maybe take a longer holiday trip on the weekend. Then, for example, a plug-in hybrid might be the ideal solution. When your charging infrastructure is not perfect yet, or you can like sometimes recharge or not that long or so, it really depends on the use case if the PHEV makes sense or not. And I can just stress again that driving it all electric is the most fun you can drive with the Passat right here. Really very, very cool, and gives you such even a more sovereign feeling. The Passat itself is one of the best mid-size vehicles because it gives you a premium touch, it gives you a premium driving feeling here with the optional DCC, dynamic chassis control, that's the adaptive suspension. You should definitely go for that. It adds so much more comfort, and you're also flexible between like sporty and normal comfort driving modes. 18-inch wheels we have mounted here. You remember 17 to 19 available. I would not necessarily go for the 19-inch. They look cool, yes, but somewhat it also reduced the comfort. So stick with the base 17-inch if you're okay with that visually. For the best comfort then, or 18-inch I think is a very good compromise between comfort and sportiness. And we can of course also use all of the adaptive cruise control systems and so on. Blind spot monitor, we show you more of that when we hit the motorway very soon. We go on the motorway, test some adaptive, all the assistance systems, and then also do a high speed test. See what about the all electric driving 140 kilometers or 90 miles maximum, then just the combustion engine in combination with combustion engine. So the electric motor itself cannot run any faster. It's also predominantly thought for the low speed driving. Then here I have the head-up display, which is not projected into the windscreen, not updated with a facelift here in the separate layer. I mean, it's somewhat helping, definitely better than looking down to the virtual instruments, but of course not such a sophisticated feature in this case. Even if we're here in the all-electric mode, by the way, I have some substantial acceleration, only if I really floor it out. So there's this threshold, I can see it in the instruments and also feel it a little bit in the pedal, then the combustion engine would hop on. Most of the time you're fine with driving all electric here. And then it's also about the consumption, of course. Always hard to tell with the plug-in hybrids, always telling that. Pure electric range, 40 to 50 kilometers, so around 30 miles. It will be less in winter times when it's really, really cold. And when the battery is completely depleted, you score normal combustion engine consumption here because you have more weight on the other hand. On the other hand, you can still use recuperation even if the battery is not recharged from the outside. So 6 to 7 liters on 100 kilometers with empty battery. And that's about 40 mpg, 48 mpg UK or something. So that still works, but of course the car just really makes sense when you recharge then frequently. And then you can also combine these power, these consumption figures, and maybe have a very low liter consumption figure and some electric consumption as well. And now I'll just combine the acceleration, 40 kilometers an hour, and let's go. That's 180 kilometers an hour, and I think, really decent acceleration, definitely. And I mean, it's a small displacement figure as for this engine, but still some nice sound. And even at 160 kilometers an hour, still decent as for the noise insulation, as for the wind noise and so on. And gives me such a stable feeling here on the road as well. Let me do a lane change here at higher speeds, no problem. Of course, this car is not set out to be a sports vehicle, but it really is fun to drive. And I mean, you can set this DCC either here in the sport mode, that is a little bit stiffer then, like this, or if you go for the comfort mode, do a lane change, you feel the car is shaking a little bit more, but then again, it's evening out the bumps a little bit better, and thus you can just adjust your driving mode, the preferred ones. And with the facelift here also, when you go to the individual settings, probably shouldn't do that while driving, so don't repeat that. Here again, the DCC with this span between comfort and sport, and you can individualize which your preferred setting really is. And now to our conclusion for the day with the VW Passat GTE. I think it's the most interesting version because it gives you the electric driving feeling, and driving it all electric is the most fun, definitely. Of course, it makes sense when you can recharge frequently and then drive as often electric as possible, and also substantial all-electric range with about 40 to 50 kilometers or around 30 miles. That's totally okay. Or you use it in the hybrid mode and then have a low fuel consumption, or use then the combustion engine on the motorway, whereas you use the electric drive in a city, then it really makes sense. Also the styling, I mean, it's rather a conservative car in general, but I think the styling is rather timeless. The facelift changes were also quite nice, more infotainment also on the interior, and of course here for the GTE, a bigger battery for the higher range we mentioned earlier. Definitely still among, one of the best mid-size vehicles. When we recently compared the BMW 3 Series, by the way, yeah, that one does have a better ride. It's sportier, it's more fun. The suspension, even the base suspension, is better than the DCC suspension right here. And of course, the BMW 3 Series is also even more, coast intensive than this one, even here as the GT. But just, a small hint, because we recently had also the 3 Series for a longer period of time. Then we also like to draw some comparisons. You also have substantial space here on the interior. Very nice fabric seats here with the blue accentuations also alongside this blue GTE scheme. And of course, even more practical in the trunk here, especially when you have the estate version of the Passat. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Leave us your comments about this vehicle. Also tune into other Passat reviews. We have a lot of these. You can check them all out on our channel. See you next time.